Today's video is all about Anubias, and don't worry, I'm not biased. Actually, yes I am. Welcome back to the small Scape. Today we are talking about, it is my favorite plant, Anubias. It's a wonderful plant. I'm bringing you 10 things that I think everybody should know, actually plus 2. We have some bonus 2 that you may not know. Very anxious to include those, but let me know, are there any things after I get through? Did you know all these things, these fantastic facts about Anubias? Is there something you'd like to share with the class that I didn't cover? Let us know. First of all, Anubias, you may know this. If you're new to aquarium plants though, this is one thing you should absolutely know about Anubias is the different parts of Anubias. Of course, the leaves kind of come out of what's called the rhizome, and that's the thicker part right here. This part right here, and then the roots grow out of it. So you have leaves and roots coming out of this rhizome. This is the part, the rhizome, that you cannot bury into the substrate. It won't like it. The plant will start to rot. It won't be happy with you, so don't do it. The roots can go into the substrate. They will actually grow into the substrate eventually. That's totally fine, but don't bury the rhizome. Number 2, fun fact about the roots is that they will eventually attach to rocks, driftwood. They will, like I said, go into the substrate. They look like they kind of have little fingers coming off of there because they are from high flow areas where they actually kind of have to hold on for dear life. Number 3, if you want to have success with your Anubias, keep the rhizome clean. If it's in your aquarium for any time, you may have some detritus building up along the substrate, along your driftwood or rocks. Just make sure that you don't have detritus hanging out around the rhizome. It won't like it, and it will also cause it to kind of rot. It will turn different colors, doesn't look happy. So definitely when you're doing your tank maintenance, make sure that the rhizome stays clean. Number 4, this is the specific reason that I took this guy. He is my little volunteer. Don't float your Anubias. Will it do fine? Absolutely. It's a fantastic plant because you can attach it many different ways in your aquarium. You can attach it with, say, a little rubber band, with a piece of string, super glue, totally fine. If the super glue touches the rhizome, if it touches a leaf or a stem, roots, totally fine. I would just do as little as possible because wherever you put the super glue, everything else will grow around the super glue, not through the super glue. But when you float Anubias, it'll survive. Sure, hopefully it won't get too much light being at the top of your tank, depending on the light that you have. But what will happen is the leaves will just grow upwards towards the light. So in this situation, yep, this guy, I believe when I rescued him, I said, I floated you. I'm sorry. And that's what happened. These little leaves just kind of grow willy-nilly, and they don't look as pretty as when I rescued him and had him at the bottom of a tank where it looks nice and neat. Number 5, if the leaves pop off, it's totally okay. See? I popped it off. Totally fine. They'll just grow more leaves. It will not hurt the plant at all. Matter of fact, if there is a leaf that you just don't like the position of, maybe you don't like how it looks, pop it off. It will encourage new growth, and it's all good. You can also do the same thing with roots. You can, if you're transplanting it, doing a new aquascape, feel free to trim the roots, just kind of, I'm going to leave them because I just think it's so pretty, but you can always cut the roots, and generally speaking for plants really like that. It'll kind of encourage new growth and give it some added encouragement. Number 6, what you do want to do is if you do see your rhizome looking either black, really pale and light tan, or mushy if you feel it and it's not nice and firm and healthy feeling, you want to toss it. You can cut off that portion. You can just break it off, but you don't want to keep it in the aquarium. Get rid of it as soon as you can. Number 7, this is a really fun fact. If you want to propagate your Anubias really simply, just look along the rhizome and make sure that the part that you're going to cut, all you have to do is cut where you want to make a new plant, and make sure that that portion that you're going to cut off has a couple of roots, maybe a leaf or 2, and it will regrow as a brand new plant. So when these Anubias do get very mature, this rhizome will get very long, and you can very easily break or cut it into multiple spots. And another fun fact is, like where I just kind of broke off those leaves, that will encourage growth. But also you can make little tiny notches with maybe a small scissor or a razor blade, be very careful. And you can make just little tiny notches, and that will also encourage some growth. Number 8, Anubias come in many, many different varieties. They're all great. They all possibly, you'll get them very tiny. If you get them as tissue culture plants, which I frequently do from Petco, I like to get tissue culture Anubias because they are so tiny. Gold coin or round leaf is frequently a plant that I love to get from Petco. They're very tiny. Even Anubias gigantea, I get as a tissue culture where the leaves are super tiny, maybe a ½ inch long, if that. Just look up the variety before you put it in your aquarium, because there's a wide variety of sizes. Anubias Nana Petite, my favorite Anubias, is the tiniest. You may have heard of Anubias Micro, which I personally think is just Anubias Nana Petite that grows out of very, very small little rhizomes. So since it's such a slow growing plant, that the leaves stay super, super tiny for a lot longer. That's just my hunch. The largest ones that you can get, there is Anubias gigantea is one of the largest, thus the name. And then Coffeefolia is a very large one. So just keep that in mind. Do some research when you get your new Anubias variety and know how big it will get. Number 9, Anubias does come in different colors, kind of, sort of. Not like, say, something like Buse. However, you can find varieties that come in white or even speckled. So Pinto or Snow White come very white, but with any plant that you're trying to maintain a color other than green, it will generally speaking require more light. And if it does not get a higher amount of light, it will just transition to green, which is totally fine. But certain varieties like Coffeefolia can be a darker green than your other varieties of Anubias. So even within the family of Anubias, you can get different shades of green and sometimes white. Number 10, just to cover it, it is an easy plant. I would consider this one of the easiest plants that you can keep. It is one of my favorites. It just looks beautiful. It has a bold leaf, even if you're getting smaller ones. Anubias Nana Petite is just adorable. Tiny little leaves, and it's just super fun to use in any aquascape, especially if you're just starting out. Maybe you have a kit tank that comes with just a standard light. It's going to do just fine. It doesn't require higher light. It's just very user-friendly and beautiful, but it is considered a low light and also slow growing plant. So if you do get an Anubias and maybe the aquarium hasn't grown in yet, you just get maybe one plant, you spent 10 bucks on it maybe, and you're like, well, all I can get is one plant. Just keep in mind that it will not fill in very quickly. It is a slow grower, so it may produce another leaf maybe every 2 to 3 weeks. And just keep that in mind if you're looking to fill up an aquarium fast. Anubias is probably not your guy. Now for a couple of bonus facts. Number 11, along with some other aquatic plants, it can grow both immersed and submersed. So that means submersed is the plants can actually grow completely underwater, which most aquatic plants, that's what you're going to be getting it for, to grow completely underwater. But it can also grow immersed, which means that the leaves will grow just fine out of water and do just great. The roots have to stay underwater, but the leaves will pop out of the water, and it adds a lot to an aquascape, especially of course you're doing like some sort of a paludarium, something like that. Just keep in mind, if you do want to get Anubias for that purpose, I would recommend that you plant the whole plant underwater, maybe close to the surface. So as new leaves are produced, the leaves themselves basically choose to go out of the water, and you'll have a much better rate for success, as opposed to buying a submersed plant that's been grown submerged and then you just put it as immersed. The leaves probably will dry up. They won't be used to that kind of shock. And then also, once your leaves do start emerging out of the water, I would mist them every so often just so that they kind of transition easier. But it's super fun to have your plants kind of transition to the immersed state. And number 12 fun fact that I think you should know is also relating to the paludarium. Have you ever wondered why people who do paludariums frequently use a peace lily? Why do they always choose that? And why does it go so well? Well, that's because it's related to Anubias. They're both part of the same family. Ericea, that's why they're great buddies, because they're family. And they both flower. So this one I got at last year's Aquashella when it was in Dallas, and then we extended the time and we went to Galveston. So this was bought at a grocery store right across from the beach in Galveston, and he's still alive. Some of my houseplants, I'm sorry, I'm doing my best, but you can see it's starting to flower here. He's really tough. He takes a lot of abuse. Sometimes I forget to water him. Sometimes I do water him, but it goes very, very nicely with Anubias because yes, those leaves look probably a little familiar to Anubias. So I hope you enjoyed today's video all about Anubias. Hopefully now you appreciate it maybe that much more, but it's a really tough little plant. It's even great for fish that like to sometimes eat your plants. Since it is a tougher leaf plant, sometimes it can kind of resist being eaten. The fish just like, yeah, I'm not gonna bother. But it's a great little plant, perfect for any beginner aquascape, and even if you're looking for your very first plant. Even professional aquascapers still use lots of Anubias in their aquascapes because it is so wonderful. So thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.